Orí adé gbogbo orí adé tó wà níbí báyìí lénìí. Ipe nǹkan tí a jọ ṣe àṣọrò ẹ̀ ní Council of Obas and Chiefs Ìkòròdú Division ó materialize lénìí. Eléyìí tó wà fún ní iṣẹ́ ìlú kò wà fún iṣẹ́ ajagunbalẹ̀. Wọ́n gbalẹ̀ mi, wọ́n dúró lórí ilẹ̀ mi, kò wà fún yẹn rárá. Wọ́n tẹ̀ ti ṣe insurance fún wọn to look after 4 of their family.
The high point of the event is the unveiling of utility vehicles and 20 motorcycles for security operations within the community. It is hoped that this move will achieve its obvious aim to rid Ikorodu of crimes. Paul George, Plus TV News.
Quite a commendable initiative, and it is timely, especially as the country is still faced with insecurity challenges. Edo State indigents of Inikoroka in Uvia Southwest local government area of Edo State have lamented over the lack of government presence in their community. As part of measures to ease their plight, they are searching for help from well-meaning individuals, government and organizations. They have now resorted to self-help in providing basic amenities for themselves for decades.
Inikoroka is one of the oil host community in Ovia southwest of Edo State. Now it seems to be a shadow of itself as indigents have no access to social amenities. More worrisome is the road leading to the community, as it is a no-go area when the rain sets in.
Like you people came here.
Let's go, Bini. Sometime a year, we know they see motor because bad road. This boy, Mr. Okuba, he come. He say he must do it for us. Really, he gather people. The road, he do am. Now we dey enjoy the road.
In a bid to ease their plight as a people, they are calling on individuals, government, and organizations to rescue
me from taking it as a challenge upon myself in terms of repairing this road is because of the suffering that our people has been passing through. Every rainy season, this road is unmotorable. To use this medium to cost.
His Edo State counterpart, Governor Godwin Obaseki, as a politician who is given to serial betrayal of those who helped to advance his political aspiration. Governor Wike made the accusation at the inauguration of the community secondary school on Maunwa in Ikwere local government area of the state.
Governor Wike said he owed the former national chairman of the Real Progressive Congress, APC, Adams Oshiomhole, an apology for opposing the governor.
We have voted for PDP since 1999 till now. Ask Governor Obaseki, has he done anything for PDP? Has he voted for PDP? The only election he voted was his own election when we gave him umbrella. So who has more stake in PDP? I have more stake. Because I have supported PDP always. You have never supported PDP. Rather, it was when your godfather chased you away and you came begging.
Wike said Obaseki is not his match where character matters because he is consistent, sincere, and a forthright team player. He explained that the problem in Edo State stems from Governor Obaseki asking the national leadership of PDP to dissolve state party's executive when the leaders had been elected before he joined the party.
The DNA of Obaseki is what?
Federation and transform their economy.
You've been a partner, you've been someone who has really shown the kind of integrity, the kind of capacity, the kind of courage, the kind of wisdom, the kind of dedication that we would love to see. Well, therefore, we are very, very proud of you.
Poor nutrition costs Nigeria over $1.5 billion in GDP every year, threatening the health of citizens and the economic potential of the nation. Fortifying stable foods with key vitamins and minerals is one of the most scalable, sustainable, and cost-effective tools to combat malnutrition in Nigeria and worldwide. This was the main thrust at the 4th Annual Nigerian Food Processor and Nutrition Leadership Forum to announce progress in fortifying stable food with essential vitamins and minerals. Justina Kadonye reported.
At the 4th Annual Nigerian Food Processing presented at the forum, which was chaired by Aliko Dangote, demonstrated sustained fortification.
Has also been working on this because we've got several visits from NAFDAC on this issue. So it's not a wasted question, and we are on top of it. We are also working on not just the saturated fats, we're also working on use of multi-purpose tankers and trailers in conveying vegetable oil, and we are working with NAFDAC on that.
As of today, prices of wheat have gone up. Now, there's a lag in the system that comes because of inventory controls and inventory management, but it is something that we need to be sitting down with government today to discuss about what measures can we put in place to alleviate what is coming down the road.
Russia and Ukraine, they do almost about 13% of the world's urea and then 26% of the world's potash. And then phosphate also, they are one of the largest in the world. So, and that though has actually, gone up. There will be scarcity of food generally, because people will not be able to access fertilizers going forward. And we will not see the effect now, but in the next 2-3 months, this thing is going to...
About justice.
Plus politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need. Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice? At 7 p.m. on PlusTvAfrica.
Thanks for staying with us. Now on Maritime, the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Awal Gambo, has flagged off the 2022 operation of Band Game Express. It's aimed at improving security among the naval forces of the Gulf of Guinea and allied countries.
Exercise Obangame Express is part of efforts to protect the maritime sector of the economy for sustainable use of the resources and effective security of maritime trade. The Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Awal Gambo, said the exercise is designed to improve operational readiness. It will also promote maritime. The Naval Chief said it is instructive considering efforts of the federal government at operationalizing the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement.
According to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, the African Continental Free Trade Area has the potential to boost intra-African trade by 33% and cut the continent's trade deficit by 21%. It is thus envisaged that Nigeria and indeed the Nigerian Navy would provide a lead role in this regard.
Vice Admiral Gambo commended the United States government through the U.S. Africa Command and other international partners for facilitating and sustaining the exercise. He expressed hope that this year's exercise will achieve the target of ensuring security at several waterways among the Gulf of Guinea nations. The flag officer commanding Central Naval Command is Rear Admiral Idi Abbas. He assured that the exercise
will aim to create a safe and secure maritime environment for shipping and other economic activities through the prevention of piracy, sea robbery, crude oil theft, illegal bunkering, and other forms of criminalities within our maritime domain. Pertinently,
in all, 24 friendly forces will participate with representatives of the agencies like the U.S. Africa Command.
And this next report captured a celebration moment where the family of Major General Henry Edmond Olufemi
Adefope passed. Major General Adefope served in the Nigerian Army and as a Minister of Foreign Affairs, a member of the International Olympic Committee from 1985 to 2006, and an honorary member of the International Olympic Committee since 2007.
And we still believe that we can
This event was to celebrate all he was and stood for during his lifetime. Family, friends, colleagues, business associates, and statesmen were all in attendance. Oludotun Adebola Adefope Okoji, first daughter of the late general, shared a brief biography of her father.
He loved nature and was conscripted by the Lagos Horticultural Society as their president, which position he held for many years until he pleaded to be released. As president, he was able to secure large hectares of land for the society on Lagos-Badagry Expressway through Governor Raji Rasaki. He, together with his wife, loved family, both nuclear and extended.
A panel was set up to have a fireside conversation about Major General Adefope's selfless service and dedication.
The legacy that he left behind in the labor movement was that before he became a minister, the first generation of unionists have been trying to have one labor center. In fact, they had the first Nigeria Labor Congress in 1950. The four major unions, ULC, WFU, they've been struggling to form the second one. But General Adefope put his feet on the ground and brought these four centers together, which produced the Nigeria Labor Congress that we have today.
In his acceptance speech in 1967 as the chairman of the National Sports Commission, he vowed to do one thing: to develop sport and ensure that every young man and woman that needed to participate in sports and rise from the grassroots level to any level they can get, he was going to do that.
The unveiling of the book in his honor was the highlight of the event.
So, it's such a privilege and an honor, and I'd be grateful if we would all do it together. Okay. So we unveil the book in honor of this legacy of honor, integrity, and selflessness.
I want you to support the Adefope Foundation by buying several copies and donating to libraries.
The Henry and Dorothy Adefope Foundation is continuing to support and promote sports and youth development to keep his memories alive. Ngozika Ohaichesi, Plus TV News.
What do you think about the bill to subject students, political appointees to mandatory drug test? Well, the Adamawa State House of Assembly is working on a bill that would mandate all job seekers, applicants for political appointment, and students seeking admission into any tertiary institutions of learning to undergo a mandatory drug test. It seeks to control the adverse effect of drugs and other illicit substance abuse on society, and also for legislative backing to strengthen the fight against drug abuse.
Adamawa is one of the states in the northeast that is confronted with drug abuse cases by its teeming youths, and the State House of Assembly is working round the clock to checkmate such cases. Speaking at the opening of the public hearing on the draft legislation, the Deputy Speaker of the State Assembly, Makondo Pamwankeno, said the bill passed into law will make it mandatory for drug tests to be conducted for all job seekers, applicants for political appointment, and students seeking admission into any tertiary institutions of learning in Adamawa State.
The problem is not only limited to our schools. What is happening in our government institutions is better imagined than real. Drugs and illicit substance abuse has become a fashion amongst public and civil servants. The bill is therefore a deliberate effort by the sponsor and the honorable members to curtail the trend by nipping the problem in bud through legislation.
Others gathering are persons and agents of the state
in our society. Robbing, kidnapping, roaming about, school dropout and all that thing. It will reduce for our own understanding.
The control of drugs is paramount. It's very important because there is a saying that youth are the leaders tomorrow. But with this development of drug abuse, the chances of them to be leaders tomorrow is blinking.
So what are your reasons for not using the pedestrian bridge but instead cross the roads? Well, in this report, acrophobia, that is, the fear of heights, has been pointed out as one of the many reasons most people would rather cross the roads than make use of the pedestrian bridges. PlusTvAfrica was at the Strait of Lagos and found this report.
As lifesavers, pedestrian bridges are considered critical infrastructures in modern road construction, especially in densely populated cities like Lagos. But not even the introduction of kick against indiscipline (KAI) by the state government has succeeded in enforcing the use of the pedestrian bridges. PlusTvAfrica was at Ojota to speak to Nigerians who gave different reasons ranging from health issues to acrophobia, that is the fear of heights, and laziness, amongst other reasons why most people would rather take the risk of crossing the roads than using pedestrian bridges.
The reason why people don't want to use the pedestrian free, some people they are not fit. Maybe some people that are treated under the high blood pressure. Because immediately they climb the bridge, even they cannot even reach up, they start continuous breathing.
I don't really blame them, but when you see them trying to climb the bridge, like they find it very, very, very difficult.
Some people think maybe climbing that thing will waste their time, so that is why they prefer crossing on the road instead of climbing on the bridge.
Old people mainly, they don't cross over. That's how they constructed their road over there, so that it will help all the older or elders to cross. That's one of the important things the government will think over, because some of us may crossing and collapse.
A health expert, Tuyi Mebawondo, confirmed that acrophobia is a key factor that is often neglected but must be addressed, adding that most pedestrian bridges are constructively unfriendly, especially for those with health issues.
There could be health issue associated with climbing, and there could be health issue associated with phobia itself. If we made the bridge as small as anything and the person with phobia will still run away. When you look at some pedestrian bridge across Nigeria, you wonder whether you are climbing Mount Everest or you are climbing Kilimanjaro. It's so unfriendly, so challenging. All the edges are cut. If you're not careful, the rails are actually broken. If you're not careful, even you that is not having phobia, you may fall and injure yourself. So first and foremost, the design must be friendly.
They advised the government to do more in enlightening the people on the need to use the footbridges apart from enforcing the law.
Well, whatever reason, please let's do the right thing. I mean, some also believe using the footbridge is a source of exercise, which is also good for our health. And that's all on this edition of Plus Report. But before we go, let's still remind you to please follow us at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also, do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica. I'm Jacinta Obiuku. Thanks for watching.
But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
This medal has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
When I start hearing the shoot of guns,
Whatever I have done,
a
every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@PlusTvAfrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Hello and welcome to One on One. My name is Fumi Unwajefe, and on today's episode, we'll be talking about embedded finance as a solution for non-financial businesses and the growing tech space in Nigeria. My guest today is referred to as a chief plumber. His name is Okwe Adeoye, and he has spent over 17 years in the technology and payment ecosystem in various capacities, including engineering, leading high-performance product teams. Okwe spent 11 years at InterSwitch Nigeria. In the process, created and led the creation of the QuickTeller product line and ran it as a business unit before handing it over, from strategy to product design and management to architecture, the entire works. Now he started his own Nigerian API fintech startup, OnePipe, and it recently raised $950,000 in pre-seed investment. He believes the world needs a new type of financial service ecosystem, one where everyone has a role to play and everyone has some value to capture. Thank you, Okwe, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell us, what was growing up like? Were you, so I always like to ask this question, especially to the tech guys. Were you like a nerd growing up? What were you as a child?
Is there any nerd that will tell you that I was a nerd? So I think I wasn't one of those cool children. I wasn't cool in any way. I think I was a nerd.
Okay.
I think I was pretty reserved. Typically always at home.
You're still reserved now. It took a lot of talking to get you out.
Yeah, so always reading a comic, always buried in fiction, usually. But I wouldn't say I was a tech child per se.
So now that you're in the financial space, is that something when we're all younger, we always had this thing, I want to be this and this. So you're reading comics and all of that. What did you want to be when you were younger, and then how you found yourself here?
Spider-Man. I wanted to be Nigeria Spider-Man.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to be Nigeria Spider-Man. Like every child, you want to be this, then you want to be that, then you want to be that. But there was one thing that, after a while, I was like, I think I would like to be an inventor. The picture I had in my head is a mad inventor in his basement, always creating something new. And then there's a world out there with the thing he creates, he can be watching them play with the thing from outside so that they don't. So that's sort of the picture I had in my head for what I want to be when I grow up. As things evolved, I thought the solution to that was, I'm going to become an electronics expert. I'm going to move to Japan. Then growing up was like Sharp and Sanyo. I'm going to move to Japan and become an electronics expert. Then because of that, I went to study electrical engineering. Then in the course of studying electrical engineering, I'm like, this thing is hard. I don't think this is going to work. Somewhere in the course of that, I picked up coding. And that's how I entered tech. But I wanted to be an inventor. I hope somehow I'm halfway in the course of that journey now. Maybe somehow I could be an inventor.
Interesting. So, the thing with tech, especially when you hear that people raise so much money, many people don't hear about the not so successful stories. So I want you to tell us about Twi Labs. Sure. What was it about? What happened and all?
Okay, so I was like, I'm going to start a company. It's time. So I've always planned to start a company, like as far back as I know. Even growing up, I told my parents when I was leaving school that I don't want to work for anybody. My mom convinced me that no, you need to start from somewhere. This thing, you don't just jump into it. So they start from somewhere, ended up becoming like 13 years of paid employment. But I'd always thought I would start something someday that would invent something. And my thought was, after spending quite some time in the corporate world, to start a lab that can produce products on the fly and turn those products into companies. Like that was the idea behind Twi Labs. Luckily for me, I had like a group of friends who understood that concept, who backed us with a little bit amount of capital to get started. But before we knew it, the money was finished. None of the product had taken roots. It didn't know the work, if I can put it like that. All the money had gone. My savings had gone with it. I'd moved from the house I was living to another one, taking my daughter from the school she was in to another one. My second daughter could not start school yet because, are you sure we can afford this thing now? So there was all of that going on. I put my wife's car on Uber. So there was quite a bit of that. And then, but all of this happened in the space of 1 year. Like this entire, from employed guy that thought it was all that to this guy is just struggling and doesn't know what he's doing. All of it happened in like 1 year. Then was at the end of that 1 year, we're like, let's do something different. Which of the things in these 2i labs look like it is making sense? It was the thing then called PayPipe, like payment aggregation. Like, okay, can we reorganize it a little bit and call it one pipe instead and turn it to a company, and let's just face it. It was a painful process. Like 2i labs were 24 people at some point. We had to let go of almost everybody.
Oh, wow.
And it was just 6 of us that crossed to continue the one pipe journey out of that. So yes, it was a painful personal experience for me. I won't lie. It really was painful. I'm like, who sent you to do this thing? But
what are the lessons that you've learned from the failure of 2i labs and you are using very effectively in one pipe now?
To be honest, I would say the biggest lesson is that there are no failures, that there's only learning. And whatever you think is a failure, it's really just if your staying power can get past that phase. The thing you went through in that period is a contribution for you. Like one of the things I took away from the 2i labs experience was that I find that younger, hungry, driven people are an asset for you. Like we are all trying to make this thing work. We don't know this thing, so we're trying to do it. So people with such a mindset are a significant asset versus people with a chip on their shoulder, at least depending on the stage that you are in. I took that lesson, and it's even part of the things that drive our hiring process at One Pipe now. Like we need to check, like in every interview, we make sure that we ask the people, what do you really want from your life in 5 years? You have to articulate it as clearly as you want. You have to articulate it back to us how we can help you do that before we even discuss your work at One Pipe. Like what's important to you? Do you see us helping? Is there a line that we can find some kind of synergy? If yes, let's continue this interview. If not, it's been real. We shake hands, we move.
Yes, that's very interesting. Okay, so let's talk about, you've started this company, finding the right staff of people, because I know like the tech space, they put your people like this. Somebody is dangling money somewhere. Somebody is, so you've gone through this process. This person has, pledged their loyalty and everything to you. But look, somebody's promising me ×5 of my salary. They'll move me abroad. They'll do all of that. How do you, you've talked about getting the right stuff, but how do you now keep this good talent that you have for your business?
If I tell you I know the answer, I am lying. Because if I know the answer, I shouldn't be running One Pipe. I should be running some kind of talent thing. But hard facts will be, since we started One Pipe, we're roughly 33 now, if I have the number correct. Up until December this year, only one person had ever left us. And
how many years has One Pipe existed?
3 now.
3 years, okay.
Yeah. So while people talk about talent attrition, I think we don't have that problem, at least not yet. What is working, I think only time will tell. But I think part of what our team likes is this sense of openness, transparency. Like I go to them, I'm a first-time CEO. Like I don't know this thing. So if you ask me, 2 of us are looking at each other. So I think people appreciate that sense of candor.
Honesty, yeah.
They appreciate that sense of, I'm supporting this guy. Now, for me, that's like something to even be afraid of. Like I always tell them, don't look up to me, I beg. Me too, I'm looking for who to look up to. Like, don't look up to me. But I think that kind of candor, this is a real place where all real people helps people. And we even look each other in the eye and say, I know you're in the tech space. I know there are dangling carrots in front of the guy. My guy, feel free to explore. Just make sure that this our mission that we're pursuing together does not suffer. Like I belong to several like tech groups where I'm like, this guy is on my team, but look at him in this channel doing this other gig. Like, it's fine. As long as there's a mission we're chasing, our mission is moving, and you need to support yourself with some other way or some other thing, please keep doing that. Let's just keep our mission going. And everyone is an equity holder in the company. So it feels like it's our company. So no matter what you do, when you need more money, go find your more money somewhere. We don't have it here. But see, your long-term value is here. So let's just do it together. So a sense of mission, joint ownership, maybe. But time will tell if those are the right formula to.
Well done. I know it's not as easy as I've just made it sound so simple.
It's not simple.
Okay, so let's talk about embedded finance. Break it down to me as a layman in the simplest of terms. What is embedded finance?
Okay, I'll use a very practical example if you don't mind. I ran into a company in Kenya that says we provide inputs to fish farmers.
Okay.
Now, this input costs a lot of money. The average fish farmer cannot afford the input. But you know, you're looking at the guy's pond. I know that in 9 months, this pond is worth $50,000. You know that. But you need to supply feed of X value. You need to feed them every day of this value. And just doesn't have it. But in the meantime, you need to pay school fees. You need to pay transport, buy petrol. So this company provided those fish farmers that I'll be the one sending you your inputs. I'll be the one paying for the things you need in your life. But when your fish is done, I'm the one who collects it and I'm the one who sells it. Now, effectively, this company became the bank of the farmer. It's like, I will give you money every month. I will pay for all the things you need me to pay for. I'll give you a small bank account that your money is inside. I can use to do the things that matter to you. Be spending on me. But 9 months later, when your fish are ready, I'm going to harvest it and I'm going to go sell it and bring you back your small change.
Profit, yeah.
So embedded finance is an approach where non-finance companies can provide finance products to customers that they know in their own value chain usually, and as a way to be the bank of those people. And once you put it that way, it's like, if you put it in practical terms of how we all grew up, it's like cooperative bank when we were all coming up. The cooperative banks were usually small, in small communities, and they were like banks of the people. So the cooperative bank in my mother's area was for all the women in that area. The bank would provide credit to them, they deposit money in there, but it was like our bank. So we think that in the African context, there are so many value chains like that, that there's the room to create banking experiences that are localized to specific value chains like that. So embedded finance makes it possible for such organizers of such value chains to offer banking services without being the bank at the back. Because typically they will do a deal with the bank at the back and then sort of repackage the bank's products and present it to their own customers in their own name.
So is the Nigerian banking space, or should I say financial space, ready to take on this? How has it been, accepting it and, working with this process? How has the processes been? It's hard work,
first. Is the environment accepting it? I'll say the environment is not accepting it. So it's hard work. You need to do a lot of evangelizing, part of why we're having this conversation. Yeah. You need to help people to come away from the biases or their understanding of how things are. Like, you need to convince a bank, for example, to say, banking is not people coming into your branch to open an account with your people so that you give them one card that they use somehow. That banking could actually be an arrangement between you and that aggregator of fish farming to go find 50 farmers to work with, and they will all carry the account of your bank. But you won't be able to control the actual last mile experience because that guy is handling it for you. So it's sort of, there's some evangelizing required, but so far we find out that people understand, especially when you look outside Africa. You're already seeing examples of this in other parts of the world. Like on Shopify merchants have a Shopify account, so to speak. On Square, you have your Square account. Walmart gives you a card. So people who have seen some of these things in other parts of the world are wondering, there should be an adaptation for this thing in Africa. So people get it, but typically what you need to do is to push people over the edge to appreciate and move in that direction.
Interesting. Okay, we'll take a short break and then we'll continue this conversation shortly. All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll still be talking to Akpe Adeoye about Thank you for staying with us. My name is Fumi Unajefe, and you're watching One on One. I have Okpe Adeoye with me. So, what are the now you've talked about the banking institutions or the financial institutions accepting your platforms, but let's talk about the businesses. What challenges will it help the businesses? So we've used this example of the fish farmers, for example, and you know it's great that you use that example for me, because recently I spoke with like a couple of female fish farmers and all the challenges and all. So what is their own benefit? What challenges will embedded financing help them overcome?
Yeah, so imagine that you are the company that is doing this deal with these fish farmers. You likely have a larger company, maybe some hotel chain that you need to supply fish to, and it is competitive, and you know it, and you need to be able to supply high quality fish to them to serve to their own guests in whatever way, shape or form. So you already have your own problem, and you are struggling with getting supply for that. Now, by offering this financial product, so to speak, to those fish farmers, you can, to a large extent, guarantee the type of fish you will get. To a large extent, buy the loyalty of the farmer where possible. Buy the loyalty of the farmer to say, it will always come to me so that I can go sell. You know you can always sell for much higher margins. You are the one in Lagos or wherever it is you are. So the benefits to them usually are typically translated in the form of loyalty down the chain. In some cases where it is not, if I'm not using fish farming, for example, maybe retail. In some cases, it is more efficient payment processing. We find cases where maybe retailer.
So now you've talked about evangelizing. What has been like the greatest challenge for you with, because it's almost like something that has apparently almost like never existed or is not very common in this space. So what particular challenges are you facing right now?
The biggest challenge is the challenge of saying, let's do it this way. That's really the biggest challenge. One of the things we always talk about at One Pipe, for example, is there are two philosophies in this world of embedded finance, or however you craft it. There are two philosophies. Percent access to upfront, so that you can now create these most seamless experiences possible. Two very divergent views on the same problem, right? We chose this other approach of let's create brand new accounts, let's list them with all the right properties at the beginning, and let's find the right customer set that needs that type of account. The hard part is having the conversation with a business customer who is telling you, I just want to process payment from the account in that other bank. And then you are saying, no, but how about this other way? So the hardest part is evangelizing that this other way has much more long-term value to a customer than what they think they know today. For some of us, it constrains the kind of customers we can have, because like my team will always say, let's talk to a customer, let's paint this long-term vision. If a customer can connect with that long-term vision, that's our ideal customer. Then let's go to how it can work. If a customer cannot and just says, no, I want bank statement or I want a debit, good afternoon, sir. There's one company down the road that looks like what you are looking for. Please go talk to them. So that has been the hardest part. Evangelizing what people think is not a today's need, and showing them that actually it could be today's need and carry long-term value for you.
But I think another challenge is, without trying to mention any big names, have you had people compare you and say, oh, so and so already do this?
Not today.
How are you different from this other person?
Yeah, it comes up a lot. It comes up a lot. And the answer we give is the same one I just gave you. So and so and so and so do it this way because they're trying to help you reach into existing accounts, which is what you really came to ask for. But hold on a minute, let me explain to you how it is more valuable to you to actually be the bank of your customer. This. Maybe 60% of the people will fall off when you say that. Like, no, I don't. Call me in 3 years' time when I'm ready for this time. Thank you, sir. Step aside. We'll move to the next person. So that comparison comes up a lot, but the answer is always, hold on a second. Let me walk you through what this world could look like in 5 years' time. Do you like it? Yes, let's move forward. You don't like it? Go to so and so and so. They are nice people.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Now let's talk about the tech space. So every time I'm reading, all the tech blogs and everything of how you've raised money here, people have raised money here, and there's a huge amount of money. So is it really that easy for tech companies to, specifically to your own experience, how easy or difficult is it to raise money and get investors to believe in you that, look, I'm not selling more here, this is a real
This
deal.
is a serious thing. Yeah. I'll answer that with a very vivid picture. We've raised funding twice, once in 2020 and 2021. So we raised 950, then we raised 3.5 million. And after each cycle.
$2.5 million or naira?
Dollars.
Dollars, okay.
After each cycle, I personally felt sick.
Oh, wow.
Like, oh, we finished fundraising. Where's up where he's sick? So, short answer is it's not easy. People fall sick after they raise money. But I think it gets better. So, one of the things I'm learning personally is that in fundraising, you make a commitment. You talk to a lot of people and you make a commitment on what your company will do. Several will buy your promise and you take your first move. Then you come for your next funding round and you need to demonstrate that you see that promise I made the last time. We fulfilled it. Do you want to back us again? What you then find happen is that after your second, third, fourth round, it kind of gets easier as long as you are fulfilling the promise you made. And those who didn't back you at the beginning, when you were still like,
we'll come
you
back.
now be like, I missed that round. Okay, can we do it now? That's sort of where we are now. So it's not easy, but the way to do it is make a promise. A percentage of people will believe in you. Fulfill that promise. Go back to those who didn't believe and be like, are you sure you don't want to get on this train? That's sort of the formula.
Okay, so let's look at the tech space in Nigeria. It seems almost like it's just quantity over quality, and we don't have so many like unicorns, in Nigeria. What do we need to do? And the way I said like what does Nigeria and the tech space need to do so that we can grow or have our own unicorns?
While I'm not a finance expert, I'm just a guy that presses laptop. So I cannot really give the proper answer to that. But I've heard people who know more than me say that this thing is just a timing thing. That Nigeria or Africa in general looks to be 5 years behind Far East Asia. So we are where Far East Asia was 5 years ago. So therefore this thing is timing based, and some of the things that it takes off based on, like you see momentum now. As the momentum picks up, you start to see, one more unicorn, another unicorn, and even beyond unicorn. Like unicorns, to me, is one of those things you just throw around. But beyond the concept of unicorn, like where's the value being created? Where are the exits, for example? Are people really making money off this thing? When they make that money, do they plow it back into the market so that the thing can keep going? I think you start to see the effects of some of these things in the next 3 to 5 years. You see founders, I haven't seen some of it now, you see founders who are planning to make some money off their company, backing other founders, right? And then those ones too will somehow push it through another 3 years, they'll back even more. So my view is that it's these things that create the momentum that we would like to see. And in about 5 years from now, Nigeria will look like what Far East Asia, or Africa will look like what Far East Asia looks like now.
Okay, so the tech space in Nigeria is really growing and it's fantastic. But some people have said, without trying to mention any big names or anything, is that I've grown this tech company, I've gone to get VCs from out of the company, and they're saying, look, you can't register this company in Nigeria, let the shell be here and just be living large, but you have to come and register in a foreign country and all of that. So how does that work? How does that eventually benefit? Because I almost feel like, does this defeat the whole African-owned, local-grown tech company idea? And how does it still benefit the economy?
To be fair, I think it's a give and take. If you cannot plow your own capital into your own society, and you find somebody looking to put in the capital in, you need to meet them in the middle, right? If the person says, well, your company needs to be in Delaware, then your company needs to be in Delaware so that you can get the capital you need. What you gain, that capital is now deployed in your country. You are employing people in your country. You are creating products for the fish farmers in your country, etc., etc. So while you may not be able to create the long-term value, at least from a capital appreciation perspective in your country.
Thank you for staying with us. I know it's work, but I want to make money. But why is this happening up there? How come the African tech space is so attractive to a lot of investors now?
Yeah, my view is Africa has significant infrastructure deficits, step one. Whether you think of infrastructure in terms of people, whether you think of it in terms of road and rail, or you think of it in terms of financial infrastructure or credit infrastructure, we just have problem full everywhere. So where there's problem, lies opportunity.
Solutions, yeah.
And then if you look at, say, the Western markets, the return on capital is not as high as it used to be, etc., etc. So if you are somebody who has a lot of money and you're in the US or UK, and you're looking for how to turn this money around, okay, invest it in a place where there's problem. Of course, you lose some of that money. But when you do solve those problems, your money goes like this. So I think that's why the African tech market is attracting funding, because maybe tech companies are trying to solve some of these infrastructure problems, and fintech in general is a bit easier to solve than the more physical infrastructure problem. So capital will naturally follow where it thinks it to get its money back.
Okay, interesting. So what advice do you have for key players in industry, finance space, in fact, the entire tech space? What advice concerning, succeeding? And that's why it was very essential for me that you shared your 2i lab story. People have done, and a lot of people come out for funding and we hear success story, but there are a lot of people at the back end who are still trying to, work off. What advice do you have for these people?
First off, don't take my advice. That's the best advice I can give you. Even me, I'm looking for advice. So I will not say I have advice. I will only say that one of the things that at least I personally believe in is collaboration. Like, what can you do? What can I do? How can my 1 + 1 become 3? How can my 1 + your own 1 become 3? Like, we should always all be looking for ways to do that. I know it's not easy, especially when we all get funded. We think we can do it.
Yeah, but people are worried. Sorry, I have to interrupt you with that. Some people are worried that we should collaborate. What if this Lagbaja goes take my idea and runs off with it and everything?
What are they using it for? Idea is nothing. It's the coming together to actually make the idea executable that actually carries value. Like, what is idea? Come and take idea. It's all over the place. I don't think idea is the problem. I think it's just a willingness to say, I'm good at, I don't know, knitting. You are good at selling knitting. Please, can we come together and create sweater and sell it? Bam. Not, I'm going to learn how to make sweater. I'm going to learn how to sell sweater so that I can keep it all to myself. There's really no point. Don't tight your chest. Yeah.
Interesting. So what's this writing challenge you just put up?
Okay, so back to like how you mentioned that what are the things we're putting effort into right now around evangelizing this concept in general. So our thought was that with this writing challenge, we will get people who are better at writing, better at research, to do the research around the concept of embedded finance and write openly about it. When the writings get published, we then pay winnings to the best write-ups. We have a panel of judges that's going to review all of the submissions, and then the best published articles get paid good prizes, I believe.
Okay, thank you, Ope, for sharing your story. We hope as you get bigger and you raise more money, I won't have to remember me now. I won't have to be chasing you around.
Save the number.
I'll be like, oh, for me, I'm somewhere in your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And that's all we can take today on this episode for One-on-One. Follow us on all our social media platforms, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. And I'll see you again very soon. My name is Fumenua JP. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Seize it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV.
Welcome to your favorite program, The Moment of Truth, brought to you by the Citadel Global Community Church, CGCC, formerly known as the Lateran Assembly. Today, all across the world, there are rumblings. Nations are plagued by perplexing situations. Societies are drowning in unprecedented upheavals. Cities are grappling with complex problems. Families are overwhelmed by seemingly insurmountable challenges, while multitudes in the valley of decision and people are in dire need of hope. At the same time, there is a stirring in the hearts of those who know their God and are said to do exploits, those who understand the times and the seasons and know what their nation ought to do, those with a compelling call to respond to the mandate of God in this decade. Brothers and sisters, this decade is a decade like no other. is a decade of the designated favor of God upon his people. To accurately position ourselves for this current move of God and to be adequately equipped for the call of the hour, we must shape the decade by the word of God, which is why I'm so glad to welcome you to the moment of truth, a life-transforming time in the presence of God and under the influence and power of the Holy Spirit, as well as the word of God. So invite your family, neighbors, and friends as you sit back, relax, and receive the engrafted word of God, which is able to save your soul. Confirmed him to become. God showed up in the bedroom and said, you are a dead man. Release his wife to him. He is a prophet. He will pray for you. Who is a prophet? He sees the invisible. He hears the inaudible. He touches the intangible. God reveals secret things to people. Do you want him to reveal it to you? There's only one condition: fear God. The secrets of the Lord are with them that fear him. Do you really want to dwell in prosperity on the face of the earth? I'll give you 3 conditions. I'm not going to suggest MBA. Many of you have MBA. I have MBWA. Ma'am, you know what that is? MBWA, management by walking around. ID has 2 MBAs. How many? Or is it 3? 2 MBAs. Okay. All right. The one get, then dash him. You want to dwell in prosperity on the face of the earth? You really want to? 3 things. Number 1, fear God. This is the whole duty of man. Let us hear the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and obey all his commandments. This is the whole duty of man. Fear God. Number 2, let him teach you the way you choose in life. Let him teach you the way you choose in life, and then pray according to the secrets he has revealed to you. That's all. You're not just going to sit down and say, heaven will finish it, and no. You fear God. You let him choose your way for you, and then the secrets he has revealed to you, pray accordingly. Psalm 25, verse 12 to 15. I'm not saying that from my head. Psalm 25, 12 to 15. Who is a man that fears the Lord? Him shall he teach in the way he chooses. Chances, choices, consequences. Him shall he teach in the way he chooses, and himself shall dwell how? In prosperity. His descendants shall inherit the earth. The secret of the Lord is with those who fear him, and he will show them his covenant. My eyes are ever toward the Lord, for he shall pluck my feet out of the net. You want to dwell in prosperity? Fear God. Let him be the one that chooses the way you walk in, and then pray according to the secrets that he reveals to you. Can I hear amen? Amen. How about Isaac? Was Isaac a strategic prayer partner with God? Wow. You can look through your Bible. You'll see that not so much is written about Isaac's prayer life. But if you carefully study the Bible, you'll find out that he too was a strategic prayer partner with God. To start with, he was a covenant child. He was a covenant child. You remember God spoke to Abram, I'm going to make Sarah to conceive and bring forth a child. And Abraham fell on his face and said, let Ishmael live before you. And God said, no. My covenant I will establish with Isaac. I want you to know that there will be no Jacob, no Joseph, no Moses, no Joshua, no David, if there was no Isaac. He was a strategic covenant child. It was a covenant child. It was a covenant bridge between Abraham and Israel. Covenant child. Number 2, though Abraham had many sons, yet Isaac was his only begotten son. Do you understand this? Abraham had how many sons? many. He had Ishmael, he had several with Hagar, 6 of them, and he had children by concubines, but Isaac was the only begotten son. What does it mean to be begotten? You yield your will to the will of the Father. He begets you. You yield your will completely to the will of the Father. You don't choose your way anymore. The boy stood. He said, my father, the wood, the knife, the fire, where is the lamb? And Abraham gave the most profound prophecy in the entire Bible. The Lord shall provide himself a lamb. And then they got on top of the mountain. The father laid the wood in order and began to bind his hand and was putting him on the altar. You think if he has not yielded his will to the Father, he will not jump out? He will be, Mama Sarah! Mama Sarah! Mama! Daddy wants to kill me. No. He did not open his mouth. He carried his own wood on his head so that Christ would carry his own cross. He did not open his mouth so that he would be like a sheep that was led to the slaughter that opened not his mouth. He surrendered himself to the will of his Father, and the Father was ready to kill him and said, stop! Now I know. Before he said, I have known him. He said, now I know that you fear God. When God is going to test your fear of him, he's going to come in different ways. Do you understand me? He's going to ask you for what is prime. He didn't ask for Ishmael. He asked for Isaac, your son whom you love. If you love anything more than God is coming to test you, you will see how you will fight. Abraham obeyed God all the way. If Abraham had not given his only begotten son, heaven would not send the east. You didn't hear me. Can I repeat myself? If Abraham did not give his only begotten son, heaven will not send east. This covenant child became the one that was symbolic of Christ in yielding to the will of the Father. Not my will, your will be done. Not my will, your will be done. Not my will, your will be done. He was a strategic prayer partner with God. He surrendered himself to God, and he surrendered himself to his Father. Give me Hebrews chapter 11, verse 17 to 19. Everybody reads, for God so loved the world that gave his only begotten son. God did so because Abraham did first. Sorry. Draw nigh unto me and I will draw nigh unto you. By faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up who? Isaac. And he who had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said, in Isaac your seed shall be called, concluding that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, from which he also received him in a figurative sense. Please note that part of the reason why our prayers go unanswered is because we do not know the things that are our inheritance, that are freely given to us by God. We covet houses, and we buy them, and we build them. We covet cars. They're not wrong. They are just little nothings that we want people to know we have arrived. Okay? But the real things we don't ask. When last in your prayer did you say, give me Nigeria? When last in your prayer did you ask for thrones and dominions? The inheritance of the begotten are the nations of the earth. Give me Psalm 2. It's going to change your prayer life. Psalm 2, 7 to 8. I will declare the decree. The Lord has said to me, you are my son. Today I have begotten you. And when you are begotten, what do you ask the Lord for? Ask of me, and I will give you what? The nations for your inheritance and the ends of the earth for your possession. Do you understand me? If you ask for a nation, that's why when I was offered oil well, I turned it down. The whole nation is mine. Table. I said, I'm going to my study. I want you to steal one of the phone. It's a drama. So he took the phone, he stole it, kept this title deed. It's for this whole house and the things that are yours. And conveyed us, translated us into the kingdom of the Son of his love, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For by him all things were created that are where? In heaven and where? On earth. What? Visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created through him and for him. When last are you demanding God? Dominions, thrones, powers, all those who are against this nation. We are dismantling the power of the occult in this nation, and we are releasing Nigeria from the grip of the wicked. We thank you, our Father, because this nation is ours. Nigeria is ours. It doesn't belong to the occult. It belongs to us, but only the begotten sons of God can demand for it, or else you'll be demanding for Mercedes-Benz car and Rolls Royce and all those things. And then when you die, they bury you in them. Despite the fact that Isaac was born into a fabulous world, he was a man of prayer. All things were ready. The father gave all things to him, but he was a man of prayer. Have you realized that for 20 years after I got married, there was no child? His wife was barren. And Isaac pleaded with the Lord. And the Lord heard his plea and opened the womb of his wife. Rather than us becoming priests over our household, when there's challenge about fruit of the womb, we consult all kinds of doctors, all kinds of physicians. We go everywhere. But the man who is a covenant child is a priest of his home. He pleaded with the Lord, and the Lord had his plea, and the battle began. The woman was pregnant, but there was war in the womb. So if this is from the Lord, why is there war? She saw. Not only was he a man of prayer, he was a man of deep meditation. Prayer without meditation will cause you to pray amiss. If you don't meditate in his word, this book of the law, Joshua 1:8, shall not depart from your mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night. For what reason? So that you can quote the Bible like a parrot? So that you can have special camels to go bring a wife? At what point your self-induced, self-generated desires will drive your prayer in life? It was deeply meditated. Was he worried about whether a wife will come or not? Do you know his marriage was so amazing that of the patriarchs, he had only one wife throughout a lifetime? And even when the wife died, he did not remarry. Why? Because God arranged it. Abraham said to Eliezer, put your hands in between my thighs. Now your fathers can't arrange your wives. It's okay. Enjoy your spouse. Put your hand in between my thighs and go to God. So if I don't find anyone there, he said, the angel of the Lord whom I serve will go before you. How many women came to the well that day? I can't hear you. How many women came with Rebecca that day to fetch water? Only one. What happened to the others? Angels drove them away. Go find something else to do. You go here, you go there. Only one person was needed. Are you still here? And say, who are you, woman? And describe, he said, mention the household that he was to go to. He said, God Almighty, you have directed me into the house of my master. Now they got the wife and they were coming on top of the camel. The guy was meditating. And the wife said, who is this? Rebecca said, Eliezer said, that's my master, the one that will be your husband. She quickly dismounted the camel and put a veil on her face. That's why you wear the things you don't understand. She was telling Isaac, I'm a discovery. We never met before. We are not in courtship. We are not date palm, so we didn't date. True courtship begins in marriage and lasts throughout 8. Now we want to cut and permanent 3 from 4. Drop this one, take that one. Drop this one, take that one. It's okay. God knows our infirmities. He will help us. Are you with me? He was a man of deep meditation. I strongly believe that it was because of his life of prayer that he learned from childhood and his meditation that it was easy for him to yield his will to the Father. He knew Abraham would not want to kill him anyhow. He knew what God had spoken to Abraham about him. He knew he was a covenant child. And then the Father said, this is the way to go. I surrender. Not my will. Your will be done. For a lifetime of strategic prayer partnership with God, there are 2 pitfalls you must avoid. And it was in the life of Isaac we learned these 2. You cannot become a strategic prayer partner with God except you avoid these pitfalls. Genesis 26, verse 12 to 18. Genesis 26, verse 12 to 18. Then Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. The man began to prosper and continued prospering, and until he became very prosperous. Don't stop at prosper. Continue prospering. Become very prosperous. For he had possessions of flocks and possession of herds, and a great number of servants, so the Philistines envied him. Now the Philistines had stopped all the wells which his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his father, and they had filled them with earth. And Abimelech said to Isaac, go away from us, for you are much mightier than we. Then Isaac departed from there and pitched his tent where? In the valley of Gerar, and dwelt there. And Isaac dug again the wells of water which they had dug in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham. He called them by the names which his father had called them. I wish I could take you to where the wells were. It was where he entered into covenant with Abimelech and gave him sheep and goat and said, what is this for? It will be a covenant between you and I that I got this well. There were 7 of them. They had filled them. There was a time he built an altar unto God for the first time and called on the everlasting name of God. And he planted a tamarisk tree that they will not eat out of, getting them ready for the next generation. They have filled all these wells, and he dug them and called them after the name of his father. Listen to me attentively. Stop reinventing the wheel. He didn't say, well, that was the day of my father. It's another day now. I can call them by what name I like. No, 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 no. He called them, and there are some things that are already established traditions of the church. We will enter into his gates with thanksgiving, into his court with praise. You can undo that and uproot it and say, it doesn't matter. This is our day. Just pray the way you like. No. The established pattern. We are the sheep of his pasture, the people of his hand. We enter into his gate with thanksgiving, with court in his praise. Why would Judah go first? Because praise must go first, because we honor him, we hallow him. Do you understand this? You know, it's not sacrifice of praise if your own needs are met. It's sacrifice of praise when you are 2 major hindrances. Let's read further. Genesis 26, verse 19 to 21. Quarreled with him. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that also. So he called his name Sitnah. What does that mean? Enmity. Can you imagine this man? He dug a well, they snatched it, he dug another well. Now, we will leave everything we are doing to go fight useless battles. You have the implements, dig another well. Let them take it, dig another well. Let them snatch it, dig another well. Do you understand me? If you are going to pray effectively and become a strategic prayer partner with God, you must avoid offenses and unforgiveness. You must avoid them like a plague. You cannot be a strategic prayer partner with God. You can't even pray effectively. If you are full of offenses, everybody around you is your enemy. If they don't like you, you don't like them. You are toxic inside of you. When you're coming to God, don't waste your time. Mark chapter 11. 22 to 26. Mark 11, 22 to 26. So Jesus answered and said to them, have faith in God. For surely I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be removed and be cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that those things he says will be done, he will have whatever he says. Therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you will have them. And whenever you stand praying, if you have anything against anyone, 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 forgive him, that your Father in heaven may also forgive you your trespasses. But if you do not forgive, neither will your Father in heaven forgive your trespasses. There you go. Enmity, quarrel, you can't be an effective prayer warrior with that. They will distract you. Offenses in your heart is a trap. The enemy will have you in his grip. You're wasting your time. In addition to the foregoing that I've mentioned, I want you to know that Isaac's enemies did not become his well-wishers until he got to Beersheba. Beersheba was where the father planted the first altar, where he built the tamarisk tree. He came from Jerah, the valley of Jerah. He went to Rehoboth. Many people would have settled in Rehoboth. God has made a room for us, therefore we'll dwell in the land. They think Rehoboth is the last bus stop. No, there's still a journey. Just as Jacob, the son of Isaac, will go from Bethel to Bethlehem, where Jesus must be born, where Benjamin will be born in between. And do you understand this? He must go from the valley of Jerah into Rehoboth. God has made a room for us in the land, and then go further to Beersheba, and he built an altar unto God and called on the name of God like his father did. This was his strategic prayer closet, and God showed up. He said, I've just started multiplying you. All that you have heard that they are envious of, I'm doing more. Give me your Bible. Genesis chapter 26. Verse 22. Genesis 26, verse 22. And he moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he called his name Rehoboth, because he said, for now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. Won't you stay in this place of fruitfulness and not move any further? Then he went off from there to Beersheba. And the Lord appeared to him the same night and said, I'm the God of your father Abraham. Do not fear, for I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your descendants for my servant Abraham's sake. So he built an altar there and called on the name of the Lord, and he pitched his tent there, and there Isaac's servants dug a well. Then Abimelech, these were the people who drove him away. Then Abimelech came to him from Jerah with Ahuzat, one of his friends, and he called the commander of his army. Listen to them. And Isaac said to them, why have you come to me, since you hate me and have sent me away from you? But they said, we have certainly seen. May God let them see. We have certainly seen that the Lord is with you. So we said, let there now be an oath between us, between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, that you will do us no harm, since we have not trusted you, and since we have done nothing to you but good, and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord. You know, it doesn't really matter to me if you're the one giving your testimonies and say, and God did this, and God did that, and I'm so blessed, I thank God. It really does not move me anymore these days. You know what moves me? When your enemies begin to testify. This will testify about you. They will say you are the blessed of the Lord. In the mighty name, can I hear amen? Finally, this is where I was a strategic prayer partner. It transferred legacy to Jacob. Genesis 28, 1 to 5. Genesis 28, 1 to 5. Then Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said to him, you shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Paddan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take yourself a wife from there of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you. Can I hear amen? And make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may be an assembly of peoples, and give you the blessing of Abraham to you and your descendants with you. that you may inherit the land in which you are a stranger, which God gave to Abraham. So he sent him away. What did he take with him? Nothing. He had a staff and a little bottle of oil to rub his body against flies. That was all he had. He said later, he said, with my rod, staff, I crossed this Jordan. Now become too bad. Why? Because what Isaac received, it transferred to him the blessing of Abraham. The problem with us, we are looking for the product, not for the what produces the product, not the pattern. We like the product. We like Mercedes-Benz. We like Mitsubishi. We like, what do you like? Rolls-Royce. Yeah. But something is producing it. No process, no progress. It transferred that to him. The blessing of Abraham. And by the time Jacob got to the household of Laban, what did he say kept him there? He said, the fear of my father Isaac, capital F. Go and look at it. He transmitted the fear of God into him. And the man went on and prospered and returned home. He said, the fear of my father Isaac kept me. When I came to Lagos in 1973, July 13, do you know what kept me? I did not want my mother's heart broken. She had labored, she had suffered. I want to succeed here and make her happy in all that I do. I just refuse to join Joneses and face my thing. My mother must not hear this. My mother must not hear this. You say, I talk so much about my mother. Hey, I do. I went to a school. She trained me. She brought me up. The fear of my father Isaac kept me in your house. You would have deprived me of everything, but God showed up to you yesterday and said, don't talk good or evil about me. Let us make a covenant again. Because of time, I can't go everything. I want to show you 2 or 3 things. How about Jacob? Was Jacob a strategic prayer partner with God? It began when God showed up his future. He showed up and showed him his future. He said, I'll be with you. I'll keep you in the way you go, and I'll bring you back. He enrolled in the school of strategic prayer partnership by entering into covenant with God. If you keep me in the way that I go, he didn't ask for food and clothes. And you bring me back to my father's house. He asked for the presence of God first. If you are with me and you keep me in the way that I go, and you bring me back to my father's house in peace, and then give me food and clothes. He was not asking for Rolls Royce or cars. He had many. The reason God blessed Solomon with wisdom was because he didn't ask for riches or the life of his enemies. He said, in that you did not ask me for that. You asked me for a heart that will beat after my heartbeat so that you can judge accurately. I cannot deny you other things. They will follow you. But there's something about Jacob that God had to deal with. Jacob was a con that conned the con. He outsmarted his brother. And God was going to make him a pillar. The one that will lay the foundations of Bethel. That will pour oil on the pillar. The one that God will use to raise those 4 pillars of Bethel. That will become what you now call the house of God. Because he said, these pillars shall become the house of God. It's got to be a strategic prayer partner with God. God had to deal with him. It is from the life of Jacob that I understand God's mind, change what God wants to do. We dig into prayers not to change God or use God. We dig into prayers so that God can change us and use us. Psalm 24. Verse 1 to 6. Ready? Read. The earth is the Lord's and all its fullness. Stand in his holy place. Anywhere he shows up is his holy place. Remove your shoes before you stand. It's a holy place. The moment the presence of God is there. He who has clean hands and a pure heart, who has not lifted up his soul to an idol, nor sworn deceitfully, he shall receive blessing from the Lord and righteousness from the God of his salvation. This is Jacob, the generation of those who seek him, who seek your face, Selah. Pause and meditate. This father was ready to con anyone. He was called a supplanter from his mother's womb. But what happened to him? Well, in Genesis 28, he enrolled in the strategic prayer school of God and swore an oath to God. And God began to deal with him from that moment on. After that revelatory dream, Jacob began to pray. He prayed and added hard work to it in the house of Laban. Prayer and his hard work subsequently produced rich dividends. The wealth of Laban was transferred to him. God became his senior partner. Genesis 31. Genesis 31, beginning from verse 1. Now Jacob heard the words of Laban's son saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what was our father's, he has acquired all this wealth. And Jacob saw the countenance of Laban, and indeed it was not favorable towards him as before. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers. If a man fears the Lord, he will choose the way he would take. If you fear God and you allow him to choose the way you take, you will not lack anything. Return to the land of your fathers and to your family, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field to his flock, and said to them, I see your father's countenance, that is not favorable toward me as before, but the God of my father has been with me. And you know that with all my might I have served your father. Yet your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But God did not allow him to hurt me. If he said, thus the speckle shall be your wages, then all the flocks bore speckled. And if he said, thus the streak shall be your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked. So God has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. And it happened at the time when the flocks conceived, that I lifted my eyes and saw where? In a dream. And behold, the rams which leaped upon the flocks were streaked, speckled, and gray spotted. Then the angel of God spoke to me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, here I am. And he said, lift your eyes now and see. All the rams which leap on the flocks are streaked, speckled, and gray spotted. For I've seen all that Laban is doing to you. I'm the God of Bethel, where what? You anointed the pillar, and where you made a vow to me. Now arise, get out of this land, and return